Okay, let's unpack this. Lahore, just recently, right? News breaking about Indian forces apparently breaching its air defenses early May 2025.
Yeah, that's right. A significant reported penetration deep into a major city.
And you immediately think, how? How does that happen? How could a seemingly well-equipped military just fail like that?
It does make you stop and think, especially given Pakistan's, long history of defense investment. But the thing is, this reported Lahore incident, it might not be a one-off.
Okay.
If you look at the wider picture, connect the dots, there seems to be a pattern emerging. A pattern of, underperformance linked to certain types of weapons.
Exactly. And that's what we're really digging into for you today, The Learner. We're looking hard at these recurring issues, these reported failures of Chinese-made weapons. In Pakistan, yes, but elsewhere too. We've got some interesting sources here, news reports from February, May this year, 2025, plus some commentary, expert analysis trying to explain it. Our mission really is to get past the hype. China's big military push. We want to see the reality on the ground, the implications of their arms exports. Why are these failures happening, and what does it mean for global power, especially for countries relying on these systems?
And that brings up a key question for you, right? Why this apparent gap between the image China, this rising military superpower, and the actual effectiveness of the weapons they sell?
Yeah, the image.
Our sources suggest China puts a huge emphasis on perception management. Like the big reveal of the J-36 fighter jet on Mao Zedong's birthday, no less.
Yeah.
It's all about projecting that image of cutting-edge tech.
Right, the spectacle. Sources call it the mirage of military modernization. These grand displays, they look amazing, super advanced. It feels like it's all about showing power, shaping how the world sees them, making them a big player in arms sales.
But as one analysis points out, the real test, the ultimate test, is combat, real-world use. And that seems to be where the problems are cropping up for China's arms industry. And what's interesting, or maybe concerning, is that a lot of this tech seems to come from reverse engineering.
Copying designs.
Yeah, basically. And while that can speed things up, you often miss out on the refinement, the long-term reliability you get from, developing something organically, testing it over and over. It's like a quick copy versus something crafted over time.
That makes sense. Looks the part, but maybe can't handle the pressure. One source even mentioned China's huge military command center in Beijing. Massive infrastructure.
Right. Beijing military city.
But does focusing on that grand structure mean they're maybe neglecting the basics? Like making sure the actual weapons work reliably in the field?
It's a valid question. A potential focus on the outward show, maybe, over the fundamental robustness of the weapons themselves. And this isn't just theory. We have reports, actual examples of failures beyond Pakistan.
Definitely. Let's look at Bangladesh. They bought Chinese gear too. Their Navy apparently found defects in 2 frigates, the BNS Umar Farouk and Abu Ubaidah, pretty soon after getting them.
Not a great start.
And their Air Force. Problems with F-7 fighters, K-8W trainers, radar issues apparently. Even the Army's MBT-2000 tanks had problems getting spare parts. Imagine needing those in a fight.
Yeah, spare part shortages can cripple you. So problems across the board, Navy, Air Force, Army, right after buying this stuff. It does hint at potential quality control issues, doesn't it? Even with new equipment.
It really does. And then there's Myanmar. This one's striking. In 2022, they had to ground 11 JF-17 fighters.
11? Wow. The JF-17, that's a major export for China.
Exactly. It's supposed to be this cost-effective multi-role fighter, but they found structural cracks, radar malfunctions, had to take them out of service.
Structural cracks, that's fundamental, not just a glitch.
Then Nigeria lost several Chinese F-7 jets in crashes. And get this, they actually sent 7 of the remaining 9 back to China for urgent repairs soon after getting them in 2009.
Sent them back. That's a pretty strong statement about their confidence or lack thereof.
So when you look at Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nigeria, what jumps out at you, the learner?
It's the consistency, isn't it? Different systems, jets, ships, tanks, different countries, but similar stories. It doesn't feel like isolated incidents. It points towards something more, systemic in their defense manufacturing or quality checks.
Precisely. Which brings us back to Pakistan. Probably China's biggest military customer, relies heavily on their tech. Jets, frigates, missiles, armored vehicles. The works.
A major showcase, you'd think.
You would. But the reports detail some big disappointments. Those F-22P frigates. Serious technical problems, reported engine issues, faulty sensors.
And not what you want on your main warships.
And the FM-90N missile system for ships. Defective infrared sensors. Can't lock onto targets properly. It kind of defeats the purpose of an air defense missile, right?
He undermines its function.
Even the JF-17 Thunderjet, which Pakistan co-developed with China, has had multiple crashes linked to manufacturing defects. That raises huge safety and reliability questions for their pilots.
So even in this key strategic partnership, there's growing frustration, it seems. The basic expectation of reliable weapons for national security isn't always being met.
Which leads us right back to Lahore, early May 2025.
This is where it really comes into sharp focus.
According to reports, May 7th, May 8th, Indian forces apparently got through Lahore's air defenses. Missile strikes, drone incursions.
And the sources we've seen suggest this really exposed Pakistan's reliance on, well, what they call lower-grade Chinese origin systems, specifically the HQ-16 or LY-80 and the FM-90.
So this wasn't just a local setback, it was like a real-world stress test that these Chinese systems seemingly failed, with potentially huge implications for anyone else relying on them.
Let's break down those two systems, the HQ-16, the LY-80 for Pakistan. It's sold as a modern, medium-range surface-to-air missile system. It's supposed to protect a wide area.
What are the specs on paper?
Claimed interception range up to 40 kilometers, tracking targets out to 85 kilometers. Developed by a major Chinese defense company. Looks capable, theoretically.
But the reports from Lahore, pretty damning. One source says the LY-80 utterly failed to detect or intercept Indian munitions and drones.
Utterly failed. That's a complete breakdown of its job.
Yeah. Raises serious doubts about its radar, its reaction time, its actual combat readiness. Was it even switched on properly? We don't know, but the outcome reported is stark.
Indeed. And then the FM-90? That's a short-range system, point defense, supposedly based on an older Chinese design, maybe influenced by the French Crowtail.
That's its role.
Last line of defense. Against low-flying stuff, cruise missiles, drones, helicopters. Close-in protection for key sites. Needs to react fast.
Yet the description we have is, well, harsh. As Indian drones were apparently flying around freely, the FM-90 sat idle.
Sat idle. While drones were in the airspace it's meant to protect.
That's the report. The source asks, if it can't even handle relatively slow drones, what good is it against faster, more complex threats? It really shows the gap between the brochure and reality.
And this reported Lahore incident, it fits into a broader trend we're seeing. CADRI data, that's the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, they track arms sales.
Right, reliable source.
Their data, cited in one source, shows Chinese arms exports have actually been declining. Volume down, value down significantly in recent years.
Interesting. So despite maybe being cheaper or offering easier payment terms,
it looks like buyers are getting worried. Concerns about quality, reliability, actual battlefield performance seem to be overriding the initial price appeal for some.
Because at the end of the day, you need weapons that work when it counts. Reliability, effectiveness, keeping them working long-term, that matters more than the upfront cost. A cheap weapon that fails can be catastrophic.
Exactly. And experts have been flagging these concerns for a while. Alexander Vuving is quoted saying, Chinese weapons aren't just maybe technologically inferior sometimes, but they're largely untested in real high-intensity combat.
Untested. That's a big risk.
Colin Coe echoes that. This importing country is worried about the lack of combat proof for most Chinese hardware. Even the U.S. Department of Defense points to technical failures limiting China's market share.
And what about support after the sale? That's
another point raised by Merix, the European think tank. They note Chinese suppliers often seem unwilling to take responsibility or provide good support when things go wrong in combat.
That wouldn't build confidence, would it?
Not at all. And Lahore, as described, feels like a stark example of these warnings playing out. Defenses apparently useless, deep penetration by an adversary, political fallout at home, silence from allies. It's a worrying picture.
Now, it's interesting to contrast this with India's approach, as our sources describe it.
Yes, they seem to be taking a different path. More focus on homegrown systems like the Akash missile, swarm drones.
But also buying top-tier stuff from others.
Right, diversifying. The S-400 system, DRDO's Rudra missiles, AI surveillance, stealth drones, precision weapons. It's a mix of domestic innovation and selective international procurement. Russia, Israel, France, indigenous.
Seems more hedged. One source quite bluntly called Pakistan's reliance on Chinese gear like buying Alibaba-grade weaponry.
Ouch. Implying cheap, but maybe not cheerful or effective.
Another analysis highlights the reputation, inconsistent quality control, no proven battlefield success, lack of meaningful upgrades. The lesson seems clear. Cheap isn't effective if it doesn't work. Integration, reliability, innovation, That's what counts in modern air defense.
And Strategic Vanguard, another analysis we looked at, digs into why these performance issues might be happening. They suggest the tech is often overhyped.
Looks good on paper, but
lacks real-world agility, reliability, adaptability needed in fast-moving combat.
They also stress something else crucial: training.
Absolutely critical. The analysis points to the Indian Air Force's potentially superior pilot training and command structure as a key factor. It's not just the machine, it's the person operating it and the system supporting them.
So true. The human element.
And integration. You can't just buy hardware off the shelf. It has to plug into your command and control, your intelligence, surveillance systems. It has to work with everything else you have in your specific environment.
Makes sense. India's mixed approach, buying from different places, plus building their own, might help with that integration challenge.
Potentially, yes. Plus, the emphasis on realistic conflict simulation and training probably helps iron out problems before facing a real enemy.
So let's pull this all together for you, the learner. What's the big takeaway here? Is this image of China as this unstoppable military tech giant? Is it maybe more fiction than reality, at least for their exported arms?
Well, these consistent reports from different countries, different systems, they certainly raise serious questions. They challenge that narrative, especially regarding exported tech. The ultimate test of military power isn't just parades or production numbers, it's performance under fire. And based on these sources, there seems to be a significant concerning gap between China's global arms market ambitions and the actual demonstrated effectiveness of their products when things get real.
Okay, so to summarize for you, the learner. This deep dive suggests a troubling pattern: China's rapid military modernization story. It's hitting roadblocks with the unreliable performance of its exported weapons. We've seen it in Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nigeria, and now, very visibly perhaps, in Pakistan.
That reported Lahore incident really throws the difference between promise and reality into sharp relief. And it doesn't seem to be just minor glitches. The evidence points towards potentially deeper issues, maybe in design, manufacturing quality, or simply not enough tough real-world testing.
And why does this matter to you? Well, understanding this helps gauge global power shifts. It shows that buying weapons isn't just about cost or specs. Reliability, integration, training, these are crucial. It's about building a whole effective system, not just collecting fancy-looking kit.
Exactly. It's a much more holistic view of military capability.
So, here's a final thought to chew on. With these repeated failures showing up, how long can the perception of China as a top-tier, reliable arms supplier hold up globally?
A critical question.
And if confidence keeps eroding, who might countries like Pakistan or others facing similar issues turn to next? What does that shift mean for regional stability, the arms trade, and global security down the line? Something to think about.